Hey everybody, this is Robert from Black Belt Gaming. Welcome to Star Wars Edge of the Empire, the beginner game. Before my series was interrupted by a move, I was taking some people through the basics of this new role-playing game put out by Fantasy Flight Games. Instead of continuing on by myself and sort of showing you the game, I thought, why don't we just try to get the most fun out of this as we can, and let's have some people play through it together with me. So I opened up some recruiting there on Facebook, and 4 players have stepped forward and said they'd love to take on the roles of the 4 different pre-generated characters, and we're going to play through this adventure book together. Well, let's take a moment and refresh ourselves with the setting here. SWEotE. The adventure takes place in a place called SWEotE, a city, a small city, on a desert world of Tatooine. SWEotE is situated on the top of a tall rocky bluff with nothing but endless desert in every direction around it. As the story begins, the player characters are attempting to escape the servants of the ruler of SWEotE, Teemo the Hutt. Each of the player characters is in trouble with Teemo the Hutt for one reason or another, as explained in their character folios. Well, that's where our adventure is going to begin. So who are the characters in this story? Well, the first one is Pash, and he's a smuggler. So why is he trying to escape from Teemo? Well, let's start looking through Pash's story. It's been a hard run for the smuggler, conman, and rogue known only as Pash. First, he was ejected from Imperial Flight School for insubordination, which is apparently a fancy word for stealing a shuttle for a quick flight around the planet when bored one day. Then his favorite speeder bike was impounded when he fell behind on his debt payments. Then Pash was arrested for grifting on the streets of Aldera, on the planet Alderaan. Then he was transported for hard labor in the space mines of Kessel, which was apparently some Alderaani noble's way of getting back at Pash for something involving the noble's daughter. Then the transport carrying him to Kessel was attacked by pirates, and Pash was press-ganged into service. Then the pirates were defeated by an Imperial frigate, and Pash was arrested for piracy. Then Alderaan was blown up by the super battle station called the Death Star, and things really got tense. Then Pash was set free by an Imperial officer named Hyrkin, who explained that Pash now owed him a huge favor. And by the way, Pash was now going to fly starships for a gentle being named Teemo the Hutt. Let's continue on. Recently, Pash has been flying cargoes for Teemo in and out of the tiny town of SWEotE on Tatooine. In some ways, it's been the most boring and peaceful 8 weeks of Pash's life. In other ways, he keeps getting shot at by pirates and customs officials and having to do risky landings in remote, dangerous places, so it's terrifying at the same time. On his most recent mission, Pash's ship, a rusty old Gotrek 720 light freighter named Alvar, was damaged beyond repair and had to be sold off for parts when he finally returned to SWEotE. Teemo the Hutt was not happy, since the Alvar was technically Teemo's property. Pash decided it was probably time to leave the Hutt's service, and teamed up with his favorite droid mechanic, 41 Vex, and a lethal Twi'lek bounty hunter named Oskara to make it happen. Final paragraph. Despite his long life of misfortune, Pash thinks of himself as lucky. And perhaps he is. After all, if he hadn't been arrested and transported off of Alderaan, He might have been there when the Empire blew it up. Pash has a knack for coming through disaster unscathed. He's really an excellent pilot and pretty good at a lot of other things. And he has an easygoing nature of one to whom things come easily. Well, here is a quick scan of the character sheet. He is a human smuggler. The characteristics in this game are brawn, agility, intellect, cunning, willpower, and presence. Below these characteristics are his skills. And this will show you the dice that are rolled. And if you have any of the yellow dice to roll, that's better than the green. And of course, the more green you have, the better. So if you have a mixture of several green and a yellow die, then that's one of your best areas. Looks like he's got one here with 2 yellows. That's probably got to be his best thing, and that's piloting. We see that that's tied to AG, which is agility. Don't worry about being overwhelmed with all these different statistics. I will be taking everyone through the game step by step. We've just got some data up here about soak value. Think of that as like an armor. Wounds, strain. Strain is like stress, and then critical injuries. And then we have his main weapons here. He carries a blaster pistol and his fists. And then he's got some extra equipment here. Stim packs, a comlink, and some heavy clothes. He's also got some cash here, 400 credits. And that, my friends, is Pash and his story. And we'll be talking about which of the players is going to play which of the pre-generated characters here very soon. I think I'm probably going to be rolling a die and going down the list of players on Facebook and letting them have first choice if they happen to roll higher than the others. So we'll probably do some random method that way. But let me tell you about the other characters. Well, Pash's story mentioned 41 Vex. This is a colonist, and it's a droid. The droid 41 Vex's programming contains a self-improvement directive, as is only appropriate for a doctor. Just as organic doctors are commonly committed to continuing education to keep their skills sharp and to develop new techniques, so too is 41 Vex dedicated to increasing its skills and mastery of medicine. Unfortunately for 41 Vex, the droid was, until recently, stationed at a clinic in Mos Eisley on the desert planet of Tatooine, with very few opportunities to improve its skills. 41 Vex spent decades rusting away, patching up blaster burns and broken appendages suffered during brawls and speeder crashes. The droid despaired of ever being able to either access the latest surgery protocols or expand its knowledge through its learning algorithms. Over the decades, with no memory wipe, 41 Vex developed several quirks in its programming and concluded that the only way to improve its skills as a surgeon and doctor was to purchase its own freedom. To do this, 41 Vex took out a loan from a local money lender in service to Timo the Hutt. Unfortunately for 41 Vex, Timo's promises that the droid would be free to improve its core programming weren't entirely honest. Timo even offered to make several hardware and software upgrades available to the droid at the Hutt's palace in SWEotE. When 41 Vex arrived, it was promptly fitted with a restraining bolt and forced to provide medical care to Timo's guards and gladiators. Some of the promised upgrades did manifest themselves, however, as Timo updated 41 Vex with some maintenance and repair programs. Fortunately for 41 Vex, the droid has struck up dealings with both Teimo's favorite gladiator, a Wookiee named Lowhhrick, and a hotshot young human pilot named Pash. They are the closest thing 41 Vex has to friends on Tatooine. Lowhhrick, of course, is a frequent patient, and 41 Vex has been called upon several times to repair Pash's ship, which gets damaged far more often than one might expect. Recently, 41 Vex aided Lowhhrick's attempts to escape Teimo by introducing him to Pash. The Wookiee promptly removed 41 Vex's restraining bolt and brought the droid along. Well, here is a brief look at the character folio for 41 Vex, or 41 VEX. It's a droid colonist. By far, the best characteristic is intellect. Cunning and willpower are quite low. Skills. Quite skilled in a number of areas. Jumping out right here immediately is this skill set here, which happens to be medicine, so that would be what you would expect. Other statistics: soak, wounds, strain, and what kind of weapons is he carrying. He's got a light blaster, some stun grenades, and his fists. And then he's got emergency repair kits. This would allow him to repair himself, I believe. A comlink, a droid chassis, and a med kit. And what do we have here? 400 credits. Lowhhrick, the hired gun. Here comes the Wookiee. The Wookiees of the heavily forested planet Kashyyyk are a proud species with a rich culture and sophisticated technology. Unfortunately, their bestial appearance and inability to speak Basic often lends to misconception that all Wookiees are little more than savage brutes. A long-standing antagonism between the Wookiees of Kashyyyk and the lizard-like Transdoshans frequently flares up as Transdoshans hunt Wookiees for sport. Lowhhrick's sister and nephew were victims of these Transdoshan raiding parties, and both were killed. Lowhhrick vowed to hunt down the Transdoshans responsible and was promptly captured. So began his long career as a gladiator, forced to do battle for the amusement of others. Lowhhrick eventually achieved such fame that his contract was acquired by a Hutt gangster named Teimo, and he was brought to Tatooine. Teimo would periodically send Lowhhrick into the ring to vanquish gladiators belonging to his business partners as a means of establishing his dominance. From time to time, Lowhhrick was asked to serve as bodyguard during particularly important business meetings, where his presence would serve as a reminder that Teimo had many trained killers on the payroll. Recently, Lowhhrick struck up a friendship with a bounty hunter named Oskara, who also worked for Teimo the Hutt. Oskara was planning to make a run for it and quit Teimo's service, and Lowhhrick offered his help if Oskara would take him with her. Lowhhrick also grabbed 41 Vex and the droid medic, who patched him up after each fight and brought the droid along. Last paragraph. Lowhhrick has a great deal of experience with combat, both from his career as a gladiator and his time acting as a warrior on Kashyyyk. He is disciplined and thoughtful by nature, but his experience of the past few decades have made him somewhat short-tempered. He takes his obligations and his oaths very seriously, and nothing is more important to him than escaping his predicament and getting vengeance for his family. Although Lowhhrick cannot speak Basic, he understands it quite well, and the other PCs understand his language just as well. Here's a quick look at the Wookiee's character folio. Brawn is his highest characteristic there, followed by agility. Got a number of skills, athletics being quite good. And even down here, although he may not have a lot of yellow dice here in these dice pools, he's got a good number of green, which is great. Combat skills, well, that's where we see his most of his skill points being allocated. What kind of statistics over here? This is his soak, his wounds, and his strain. Weapons. He carries a vibro axe. This is an axe that vibrates at an extremely high frequency, or it just helps it cut through. And so he's got this vibro axe here, this blaster pistol, and his fists like the other characters. 2 stim packs for healing and 1 comlink, and also 400 credits. Well, here is Oskara, the bounty hunter that everybody's been talking about. I'll do my best, as I've been doing so far, trying to pronounce these words. Is that Ryloth? I'm not sure. But Ryloth, the home planet of the Twi'leks, is a dry, dusty planet with precious little to offer for anyone looking to get rich. In fact, the most valuable, some would say the only valuable export, is the illegal spice called Rill. Consequently, many of the rich and powerful on Ryloth are smugglers, crime lords, and thugs, sometimes capturing innocent Twi'leks and forcing them to labor in the spice mines. Oskara was always quick, clever, and lucky enough to stay ahead of the press gangs. But her sister, Makara, was not. When Makara was nabbed by Aqualish thugs, Oskara had to act fast to keep her sister out of the mines. She offered her own unique services to the gang leader instead, claiming to be an experienced bounty hunter. Surprisingly, her first job for the gang went well, and Oskara soon thrived under the tutelage of a veteran hunter named Gax. She was called on to perform more and more duties for the spice mining gang, and as long as she did well, Makara was safe. But then, Oskara was loaned out to a Hutt gangster on Tatooine named Timo. And then things started to come undone. Timo paid her well, but in the course of her bounty hunting work for the Hutt, she uncovered a plot against the real mining gang of Ryloth. The Hutt was going to seize their territory, and there would be no more guarantees of safety for Makara. Oskara decided to team up with Timo's favorite gladiator, a Wookiee named Lowhhrick, and one of his best pilots, a human named Pash. Alongside her new companions, Oskara was sent a warning. Oskara has sent a warning to her compatriots on Ryloth, and is now fleeing Timo's revenge. Oskara seems jaded and cynical at first, having seen much of the worst the galaxy has to offer at such a young age. She is careful not to get too attached to anyone or anything. She is a professional bounty hunter and takes a serious approach to her work, focusing on results rather than any emotional considerations. Let's take a look at her character folio inside. Twi'lek bounty hunter, quite agile, and has a nice presence here. Skills. There we go. Looks like a heavy ranged weapon may be one of her best skill sets here. Other statistics, we've got her soak, wounds, and strain. She carries with her a blaster carbine, which is a heavy weapon, and her fists. And she's got some other equipment, 2 stim packs, a comlink, 2 binders, a data pad, and some padded armor. And this has already been added into her soak value. She also has 400 credits. Alright everyone, we've gotten an idea of what the adventure is about. We've taken a brief look at the character folios, and I think we're ready to choose now. We're ready to give the Facebook friends a chance to decide which characters they'd like to play in this adventure. To do this, I thought, since we're all gamers, let's just use a 30-sided die, and I'm going to roll this die for each of you. Let's start with the first player that commented in the recruitment thread, or the recruitment topic or post. Odd Gunnar Wickmark. Please forgive me if I mispronounce anything. But let's see what you get. We've got a 19 for you. We're going to go down here. We have Daniel Campen. And please correct me if I'm mispronouncing your names at all. Campen, let's see what we get. We've got a 15. Next is another Daniel Reed. Daniel Reed. And Reed has, 30 for Reed. And then we've got another Daniel. Trowell. Daniel Trowell. And we've got a 24. So the order will be Daniel Reed gets to choose first. Daniel Trowell gets to choose second. Odd Gunnar Wickmark gets to choose third. And Daniel Campen gets to choose the last character. So, there we have it. Take a look back at this video. You can pause it, I guess, if you want to look at any of the statistics or anything there on the different character sheets. But let's start choosing the ones we'd like to play. You can certainly pass if you just really don't care, and let someone else below you in the initiative order, so to speak, take one of the choices. But there we go. I will look for Daniel Reed to choose first and continue from there. So I'm looking forward to playing through this with you guys. And we'll try to run it in a manner very close to how we did the Descent game, since that seemed to work. This is a bit of another experiment, but I think we can do it. So thanks to the beginner box and having all the tokens here and the different dice for us to use, I think we'll be able to play it in much the same way. So I'll help you along through the rules as I'm learning them myself, but I think we can do it, and I'm happy to do it. Looking forward to playing with you. Take care, everybody. We'll get the adventure rolling very soon.